The Holy Gospel is written in the second chapter of St. Matthew, beginning at the first verse. In the time of King Herod, after Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, wise men came from the east and came from Jerusalem asking, "Where is the child that has been born King of the Jews? For we observed his star at its rising and have come to pay him homage." When King Herod heard this, he was frightened, and all Jerusalem with him. And calling together all the chief priests and scribes of the people, he inquired of them where the Messiah was to be born. They told him, "In Bethlehem of Judea, for so it has been written by the prophet. And you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah, for from you shall come a ruler, who is to be the shepherd of my people Israel." Then Herod secretly called the wise men and learned from them the exact time when the star had appeared. Then he sent them to Bethlehem, saying, "Go and search diligently for the child, and when you have found him, bring me word so that I may go and pay him homage." When they had heard the king, they set out, and there, ahead of them, went the star that they had seen at the rising until it stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw that star had stopped, they were overwhelmed with joy. On entering the house, they saw the child with Mary and his mother, and they knelt down and paid him homage. Then, opening their treasure chests, they offered him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And having been warned in a dream not to return to Herod, they left for their own country by another road. Here ends the gospel for the day. Please be seated. When I came here some years ago, one of the things that I was acquainted with very soon was a group of men who served in the kitchen. They had a lot of projects during the year that they involved themselves in, a lot of breakfasts, a pancake supper during the year, and I think what exactly would be the taste of the day. They made a grocery list, and it was very efficient. They knew exactly what to get and how much to get, and I designate them the honorary title of wise men, which stuck. And they are still known today as wise men in the kitchen. They did things extremely wisely in terms of what they were doing here in the church. However, and always watch out for however, they said some things that some people didn't agree was wise, and they were mostly females. Because one of the things they said was, "This is a man's kitchen. Females are not allowed." "Females should not be in the kitchen," was another phrase that was used. And we are the ones that should be making all the rules about where things go, because women don't know how to organize properly. So somebody, I presume a woman, got a towel and embroidered on it, "Wise men, are you kidding me?" Now, I know all of this is done in jest. Or at least I think it was done in jest. But it was. There was something wise about both of those approaches, because they are indeed wise men, and they're right. However, people differ on what they think is wise. And sometimes wisdom in one area doesn't necessarily apply. Some people regard certain others as wise, And there is another group that would say that group is not wise. They are not making good decisions. Okay, with that introduction, enter the three wise men. One of the most favorite stories of the New Testament. These three people coming from the east, probably Persia or what we know as Iran, came and they saw a star and they came to worship the Christ child. It's a wonderful story, very moving. We celebrate it in a song called We Three Kings, or a Christmas hymn, We Three Kings. Sometimes called the Magi, sometimes called astronomers. But nevertheless, it is a favorite story that comes from Christmas. But I wondered, were the wise men always so wise, or what did entitle them to be called wise men? And I got to make a stop here and say, when I say wise men, I'm including females, women. We got to, in this day and age, clarify that when we talk about men, we're not just talking about men, we're talking about everybody. Women can be foolish sometimes too. But anyway, the wise men, if examining in terms of what they were doing in their day, would there be a lot of people saying this is the acts of a wise person? Or would they say, wise men, are you kidding me? We have different opinions of who the wise men were. Some say kings, some say astrologers, some say magicians, some say kings. They were probably not kings, but they were probably very well educated. They were smart people. But in that day, one of the real sciences was astronomy. And so they were probably astrologists too. They were not kings, but they were advisors to the king. What in today's world, in terms of the president, would be called the advisors. Usually, you called in the wise men to give you decision-making information. Okay. So now these three people see a star that seems to have significance. And so they say to the people that they are advising, we're going to take a trip. You're going to take a trip, why? Because we see a very, very special star in the sky. Now, does that seem like the message of a wise man? And they would say to them, you're following a star. Wise men, you got to be kidding. You're leaving your jobs. You're leaving your community. Where are you going? Well, we're going to Israel. We're going... why are you going to Israel? What does that have to do with us here? And why would you go and seek something? What are you seeking anyway? Well, we're seeking somebody that was predicted by a lot of soothsayers before us, that there's going to be a Messiah that's going to be born in Israel, a Savior of people. He's going to bring peace. You're going to go to Israel to find somebody who brings peace. Don't you know they're under the Roman guard? Don't you know that they are warring people? Don't you know that there has always been enmity between us and them? Are you really wise men? How far is it? Well, it's about 7-8 months' journey. 7-8 months' journey to follow some star, to make some make-believe Messiah. Are you kidding me? Are you really wise? What are you taking with you? Well, we're taking expensive gifts. We're taking gold and frankincense and myrrh, some of the real precious things of that day. Across land that were guarded by robbing bands, wild animals. Come on. Wise men, are you kidding me? And then what do? Well, they do a logical thing. This would be the idea a smart person would have one. If you're hearing of a Messiah coming, you go to the king. Actually, the army that is in charge of that country, who's taken over that country. You ask him about somebody that's going to come and deliver his people. You go to Herod. Well, if a new Messiah is going to be born, or new king of the Jews, wouldn't you go to the present king? Maybe it's his son. Wise men, are you really kidding? There is a statement in the Bible that says, the foolishness of God is the wisdom of men, but the wisdom of men is the foolishness of God. And so often we think that our wisdom really supersedes the wisdom of God. Even the heroes of the Bible, who were considered ultimately wise, made tremendously bad decisions that showed they had no wisdom at all. Who is the greatest person in the Old Testament? The one that was regarded by God, who looked down on him and said, this man is the wisest man that ever lived. Solomon. And Solomon was, or God asked Solomon, what would you like from me? And he distinguished himself by making an amazing answer, a smart answer, but also a wise answer. I would like you to give me wisdom so I can rule my people properly. And God said, well, that's a very wise decision, but you are a wise man. And because you are so wise, I will give you that gift, but also give you all the other things combined. What does wisdom do? What does Solomon do? He begins to think that he's wise himself. He's made some good decisions. Remember the one about the two mothers that claimed to have the same child, and he said, well, let me cut them in two and give each of you half. And the mother says, he doesn't want the child murdered. She's the one that says, no, just give him to the other woman. I don't want him killed. And Solomon said, well, that's a wise decision. I know you're the mother. But then Solomon marries 100 women. Now, I would say at that point, you're not very wise, Solomon. I mean, 100 is stretching it. 2 or 3, maybe. No, I'm kidding. Somebody's going to think I'm serious with that. But what happens is that in order to appease them, he brings all the false gods into his country. The country becomes corrupt. It divides. And Solomon, the wisest man on earth, is the reason that that country lapses into complete failure and ruin. Solomon, the wise man, are you kidding me? What is it that makes someone wise? And what were the characteristics of the wise men that really did make them wise? One is that they were open-minded. They saw the star. All the other people there saw the star, but they could notice something different because they were trained to be open to new possibilities. Things have to change periodically, and closed minds restrict everything that progresses. The person that is not really wise is the one that has all the answers, that doesn't need any further learning, the one that doesn't need any further edification. I've got all the answers. I once told my seminary professor that at one time when I came to the seminary, I knew all the answers, but when I left, I didn't even understand the questions. He said, we did a good job of educating you because you want to be closed-minded. The second characteristic of the wise men that made them really wise is they took action. You can't sit and do nothing. Even if you learn things and you are the smartest person in the world, unless it's acted upon, nothing happens. If you have the vision to see some kind of invention that could make life better for people, that's great, but unless you start the process and risk all kinds of failure along the way, it'll never happen. If you say, oh yes, I want the church to be something great, I want us to be a real witness to the community, but you do nothing, it doesn't make you wise. If you say, yes, I really want to be involved in worship, but never take advantage of it, or never study about it, or never pray about it, nothing happens. The wise men were wise because they took action. They saw something, they opened themselves to possibilities, and they set out in spite of danger, in spite of ridicule, in spite of leaving a lot of things that were precious, and leaving that period and place of safety and going on where dangerous things might happen, where you might learn something new and make some kind of great addition to the human race. The wise men were wise because they didn't have closed minds. The wise men were wise because they took action. And thirdly, the wise men were greatly wise because they opened the possibility to a spiritual happening. Opened their minds to a spiritual happening. They were willing to live not by facts, but by faith. If you get into this religion thing and think you can prove everything, it won't happen. You'll be disillusioned. But if you live with faith, all sorts of great things can happen. Of all the great things you can possess in life, hope, love, spirit, charity, none of those things are provable. But unless you live with them, nothing exciting happens, and you do not serve a holy God. Yes, for those of you who say we're the wise men, really wise men, are you kidding me? It's important to know that they were wise. They were open to new possibilities. They took action, and they were open to living by faith. And so when you come to the altar today and say, I'm coming because I'm sinful and I need forgiveness, the world will say, are you kidding me? Are you people really wise? And when you come and you say you want to be a part of something like a church, there are a lot of people out there saying, are you really very smart? Are you really very wise? And you say, but I'm open to the possibility. I grasp my God in faith. And to those people who say, are you really wise? You can say, I don't know. I open my eyes to new things. I take action, and I live by faith. It's a pretty good way to act. I think then you're really wise. Amen.